Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we begin this video, don't forget to give it a like. It truly encourages us to keep sharing beneficial content, inshallah. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our future videos on faith, spirituality, and Islamic reminders. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah bless you and enjoy the video. Sometimes, what you've been asking for from Allah comes quietly, wrapped in simplicity, and enters your life without warning. No lightning bolt, no fireworks, just a calm presence. A person. Someone who makes you feel safer, more centered. Someone who reminds you of who you are when you're closest to your Creator, and yet you look away. You question it. You call it coincidence. Or worse, you convince yourself you deserve something louder, more exciting, more dramatic. But what if that person, calm, sincere, and spiritually aligned, was the one Allah had already chosen and approved for you? It's easy to miss what Allah sends when you are looking through the wrong lens. Sometimes, the right person is sent into your life during a time of chaos or emotional confusion. And because your heart is still healing, still broken in some ways, you don't even recognize the blessing in front of you. You're focused on the image you had in your mind. You're measuring real souls against fantasy standards. You're trying to read divine timing through a worldly clock. So when the right person arrives, you label it too soon, or not my type, or I'm not ready. But what if your readiness doesn't matter as much as the fact that Allah already saw your heart and sent what it needed, not what it expected? Allah doesn't always speak to us with booming voices. Often, He speaks through moments, people, feelings. There may have been someone who brought you peace, someone whose presence silenced your doubts and reminded you to turn back to your salah. Someone who didn't try to impress you with grand gestures but instead showed up with consistency and purity. These are signs. These are divine fingerprints. But when your heart is distracted by worldly filters, status, wealth, appearance, you dismiss what's real for what's shiny. You walk away from light because you're still chasing the illusion of fire. Maybe that person was already in your life. Maybe they spoke to you gently, with respect, with adab, and you took their calmness as lack of passion. Maybe you were looking for chaos and emotional highs, confusing that for love. Maybe you thought you had time, and you let them go thinking they'd always be there. But now you realize, the way they looked at you, the way they respected your faith, the way they reminded you of your worth in Allah's eyes, those were all small confirmations, gentle echoes of a prayer you were once made during sujood. So many people ask Allah for a spouse, a partner, someone to walk with in this dunya and toward the akhirah. But then they don't recognize the answer when it arrives because it doesn't look like the love story they imagined. But Allah's plan isn't to fulfill our imagination, it's to fulfill our soul. And the person who is good for your soul may not be the one who fits your ego. This is where the test lies. Allah may have sent someone your way, someone who carried light in their heart, someone who made you feel seen without having to perform or pretend. And in your hesitation or pride, you may have blocked it. Think back. Was there someone who showed up right after you made dua? Did they treat you with dignity? Were they consistent, even in silence? Did their name or presence come up again and again in unexpected ways? Through dreams, through people, through reminders you couldn't quite explain. These are not accidents. These are gentle nudges from the one who knows your heart better than you ever will. But here's the part many don't understand. Allah's approval of someone doesn't always come with ease and smoothness. Sometimes it comes with a test, because He wants you to choose with tawakkul, not fear. He wants to see if you will listen to your ego or your heart that has been softened through his remembrance. And that person, the one you're unsure about now, may have been the answer you asked for months or years ago. Only now, you've let your logic override your submission. It's possible to block what Allah has already approved. Not because He withdraws it from you, but because you choose not to accept it. Allah is never unjust, but He gives you the ability to choose, to respond, to trust. And when you say no to what He has permitted, you may miss out on a lifetime of blessing for the sake of a temporary emotion or fear. So ask yourself honestly, was there someone who entered your life in a way that brought peace, not pressure? Who respected your values, honored your journey, and made your heart feel safe in a spiritual way? And if there was, did you give that connection a chance? Or did you block it out of fear, impatience, or the illusion of wanting something more perfect? Sometimes, what Allah sends is already perfect. It just doesn't match the image you had in mind. And in the end, it's not the image that matters, but the alignment of your soul with someone whose presence helps you draw nearer to Allah. Many people ask Allah for love, for a righteous spouse, for someone who will walk with them through the tests of this world and toward Jannah. But what they often don't realize is that they themselves are the ones placing barriers between their hearts and the answer to that very prayer. It's not always shaitan or bad timing that blocks you from the one Allah sent. It can also be the invisible walls you've built around your own soul. Walls made of fear, perfectionism, past heartbreak, and unrealistic expectations. And these walls don't just block others from entering. They also prevent you from recognizing the one Allah already approved for you. Let's begin with perfectionism. The idea that the person destined for you must match your exact checklist. Emotionally, physically, financially, intellectually, spiritually. You've created this internal resume, and unless someone ticks all the boxes, you tell yourself, this can't be the one. But human beings are not checklists. They are souls, hearts, journeys. Even the most righteous companions of the Prophet didn't check every box. From a worldly point of view, what they offered was sincerity, character, and a heart attached to Allah. Yet today, many people overlook such individuals because they don't come packaged in a way that matches a fantasy. You might have blocked the one Allah sent because they weren't tall enough, confident past relationships, betrayals, or rejections that they now approach love and connection with fear instead of faith. Even when someone genuine enters their life, they keep them at a distance. They assume they'll be hurt again. They read too much into innocent actions or harmless silences. They overanalyze and self-sabotage because they're operating from trauma, not trust. They say they want love, but their heart is armored. They say they want someone kind, but when kindness comes, they doubt its sincerity. If you haven't healed, you can mistake peace for boredom, stability for dullness, and consistency for lack of passion. And that could cause you to reject the one Allah sent simply because they made you feel too safe, something you're not used to. There is also the deeply rooted issue of ego. Sometimes the person Allah sends your way doesn't impress you the way you want to be impressed. Maybe they are too humble, too quiet, too simple in how they approach you. They're not flashy. They don't play mind games. They're honest. And for someone whose ego has been trained to crave attention or validation, this simplicity may feel underwhelming. But don't confuse that with lack of value. The one Allah sends may not try to dominate your attention. Instead, they hold space for your growth. They don't chase you with empty words. They speak with actions, with respect, with presence. That's not a lack of effort. It's a sign of sincerity. If your ego is too loud, you'll reject that. You'll chase after someone who brings you highs and lows instead of someone who brings you peace and balance. Another way people block what Allah has approved is by overriding their own istikhara. You may have prayed, asking Allah for clarity, for guidance. But when the result came, when things felt easy, when signs aligned, when your heart felt calm, you still questioned it. You tried to force your own path. You said, "But I feel nothing," or, "But what if there's someone better?" And in doing so, you placed your logic above your submission. You wanted a miracle, but Allah gave you a moment of peace, and you dismissed it. Sometimes the test isn't whether you can spot the signs, but whether you'll surrender to them even when they don't match your expectations. We also block the one when we confuse worldly attraction with spiritual compatibility. Of course, physical attraction matters in marriage, but it should not outweigh character and deen. If you reject someone solely because they didn't meet a superficial standard, you could be turning away from a soul that was made to walk beside yours. The Prophet taught us to look at deen and character first, yet many today put that last. We chase aesthetics, charisma, and social media chemistry, while ignoring emotional safety, spiritual leadership, and the ability to build a life of ibadah together. That's not just short-sighted, it's dangerous. You might block someone who would have prayed tahajjud with you, raised righteous children with you, supported you in your lowest moments, all because you were looking at the exterior. Finally, there's the barrier of impatience. You may have met someone with potential, someone Allah placed gently in your life, but things didn't move as fast as you wanted. They were still figuring themselves out, or they needed time to grow into their role. Instead of waiting with sabr, instead of building together slowly, you walked away. You told yourself, if it was meant to be, it would be easier. But sometimes, the right person comes with a journey, not a shortcut. They don't arrive fully polished. They arrive willing to grow with you, if you're willing to see them through. So ask yourself now, not from a place of regret, but from a place of awakening. Have you placed emotional or spiritual blocks between you and what you asked Allah for? Have you rejected the very thing He sent because you were afraid, distracted, or looking in the wrong direction? Because often, the person Allah sends is not the one who takes your breath away, but the one who brings it back. Sometimes, the signs were there, clear, gentle, persistent, but you overlooked them. Not because you didn't want love, not because your heart wasn't searching, but because you didn't recognize Allah's language in the signs. When Allah approves someone for you, He doesn't always make it loud. Often, He makes it subtle, just enough for the heart to feel it, but quiet enough to require faith to trust it. And when you ignore those confirmations, it's not that Allah stopped guiding you. It's that your focus may have been elsewhere. Think back to the moments you felt unexpected peace around a certain person. Not excitement or adrenaline, but real peace. The kind that calms your soul instead of stirring your ego. That's not a coincidence. That's a spiritual sign. When Allah sends someone for your heart, the sign isn't found in grand gestures. It's in the stillness, the calm, the quiet harmony that your soul senses when you're around them. You didn't have to perform. You didn't have to explain your worth. You were simply seen, and your faith was respected. Maybe you kept seeing their name. Maybe every time you prayed about love, you thought of them. Maybe you kept hearing reminders or verses that echoed their qualities. And still you told yourself, it's nothing. I'm overthinking. But remember, Allah is Al-Latif, the most subtle. His signs aren't always bold. Sometimes they come like soft waves on the shore, gentle but consistent. You didn't imagine those connections. You felt them in your chest, in your bones, in your dua. And what about their impact on your faith? Did they bring you closer to Allah? Did you find yourself more aware of your prayers, your intentions, your goals, after speaking with them? That is a powerful confirmation. Because the one Allah sends will not distract you from Him. They will lead you closer to Him. If someone helped you remember Allah more, made you feel cleaner in your thoughts, more hopeful in your spirit, that is not ordinary. That is divine alignment. But when you're distracted by noise, by other people's opinions, by your own fears, by social media standards, you mute the voice of your heart. You brush off these confirmations as wishful thinking. You treat your intuition like it's a weakness, when in reality, it might have been your soul responding to Allah's subtle call. So today, pause. Reflect. Were there divine signs you ignored? A person who felt like a safe place in a chaotic world? A name that stayed with you longer than expected? A moment of peace that came too often to be random? Allah doesn't waste signs. If they came, it was for a reason. And even if you didn't respond then, the signs were real. Maybe they were the confirmations you asked for, and you just didn't recognize them in time. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't recognizing the one Allah sent. It's accepting that you may have rejected them. But here's the truth. Even if you blocked what Allah approved, His mercy is still wide enough to reopen doors you thought were closed forever. The heart that missed the signs can still be guided. The soul that hesitated can still return. The beauty of Allah's plan is that it's not bound by your past decisions. It is bound by your sincerity today. If deep inside you feel regret, or you now realize you may have blocked the one Allah destined for you, the first step is humility. Not shame, not guilt, just a sincere return to Allah. Acknowledging that perhaps your fears, your expectations, or your distractions clouded your judgment. Say it to Allah plainly. Ya Allah, if I turned away from what you approved, help me open my heart again. I didn't know. I was blind. I was protecting myself. But now, I want to see clearly. Start by asking Allah to purify your intentions. Sometimes we ask for love, but with unclear motives. Do you want someone just to fill the silence or to walk with you toward Jannah? Do you want someone to post about or someone to pray beside? When your intention becomes clear, your heart becomes clear. And what once felt complicated becomes light. If that person is still in your life, still reachable, still present, don't let pride or fear stop you from reaching out. But do it with dignity. Do it with honesty. No games, no masks. Be the version of yourself that trusts Allah enough to move forward with sincerity. If they are truly the one Allah sent, their heart will recognize your change. And if not, trust that Allah never removes something unless He intends to replace it with better. If that person is no longer reachable, don't lose hope. Ask Allah to bring you someone with the same light, the same sincerity, the same barakah. Because when Allah approves something for you once, He can do it again, even better. Sometimes He allows you to lose something just so you can appreciate its worth the next time He sends it. Most importantly, forgive yourself. You are not the same person you were when you missed the signs. You're growing. You're awakening. And Allah sees your heart right now. Not your past enough, exciting enough, or wealthy enough, even though their soul was filled with light. Another major barrier is the lack of healing. Some people have been wounded so deeply by mistakes. The door is not closed. It is waiting for you to knock again, with tawakkul, with wisdom, with faith. So open your hands, say Bismillah, and let your heart trust again, not in people but in the one who writes every story with precision, mercy and love. May Allah bless you and guide you to a life filled with mercy, love and tranquility.